I'm coming with a couple of my buddies here. I got two again. I got the J4Y and of course the Bonk. Bring you episode number 44 of the Dota on Demand podcast, centered around 6.75, the pretty crazy major Dota 1 patch. What's going on, Jay?
Yeah, Jay. Jay gets the first go this time. And I'm good because I'm first. Anyways, yeah, actually I'm fine. How you doing, Craig? Bonk.
Bonk.
T-Bonk.
Bonk. I'm doing good. Glad you guys don't have smell-o-vision.
Why would
Me
you
too.
be will we be suffering right now? Is
You
that
would
what
be. You would be.
Or
Right back.
is it because you smell of lavender and lilac?
That's true, too. A bit of both.
It's
No,
both.
not really. It's just because I was working out, so I think.
Fantastic.
Great.
Well, anyway, so as I said, this is episode number 44 of our Dota on Demand podcast, and this is going to be based around the crazy huge Dota 1 patch, as we saw with the last one, which I believe was actually, I want to say December last year. We had the big one that added all the items, added some new heroes to the game. We now have another one like that, added some heroes, made some major changes. And so we're going to start going through those, and I guess just to sort of give you guys an idea of what's going to be going on, we're going to be covering the competitive changes, then some of the just big hero changes that happened that exist in Dota 2, and then we're kind of just going to go through it, kind of how we have in the past with the patches, and just go back and forth talking about stuff that we think is interesting, or the changes that we like. So if you guys in the chat would like to bring up anything, we would love to talk about that. But I think that to start this off, the kind of crazy big major change to wind up happening is actually to the way that the picks and the bans work. Right now it's you ban 3, then you get to pick, and then there are another 2 bans. It's going to change to 2 and then 3. What do you guys think about that?
Who wants to start? You gotta give a direction.
Left.
True.
Left. That's Bonk. No, actually that's me. Okay. Technically I'm left. Yeah, that's obviously going to be a huge, huge change. I mean, right now, obviously, like you said, it is the 3 bans for each team, so 6 total. Before you get into the 3 picks on each team, and now they're going to switch it up and do 2 on each team instead. So, I was kind of going through my head who the popular bans were, which actually I was telling you we should probably do on one of these casts and just kind of go over that in general. But there's just I would say there's probably 2 to 4 heroes that are pretty much always banned, and then there's like 2, I'd say, luxury bans, like either respect bans or like just something you just really don't want to go against, like an anti-mage or a morphling or something. But now that they're changing up this way, you might see a lot of heroes that normally are just banned out right away picked up, and that could definitely influence who they have to counter pick or choose their lineups instead, because now they have to go against this new kind of strategy.
Yeah, I mean, you just can't ban the same heroes over and over and over. You're gonna actually have to see games played with there's a couple bans that are pretty common, like Naga, Tide, Rubik, Invoker. It's like a couple of the heroes are gonna come through, and teams are gonna have to learn how to play against them.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I think,
Like
my
here.
thinking of it. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I kind of grouped the bans into a couple different groups. You have your respect ban. You have the ban to stop certain compositions from coming together, these certain combos, and then you have let's say that there is such a thing as a broken hero, or there's a hero that's way too strong, that's overpowered. We want to ban them out. And I think really the way it's set up now, where you have the 3 and the 2, you really get to decide against certain ways of the game being played, like in by no means a broke hero, especially after this changelog, which we'll get into later. You can fight them. It's just, I think a lot of the times you'll find people are just like, no, we just don't want to play against it. We just don't want to have to deal with it. We ban out the Broodmother because we don't feel like it. We don't want to have to play against that. We don't want to have to worry about it. Ban out the Nature's Prophet because we don't want to deal with the global presence. And that's something interesting too. And casting some of the qualifiers for the GEST, you see that largely Nature's Prophet is just passed over. He'll get picked up from time to time, but there have been series where he doesn't get picked up or banned at all. And so it's interesting to see, somebody that I think in the European scene we think of as so powerful that he almost had to be banned out in the past. You have a large area of the world that just doesn't care.
Well, when you go back, of course, he was picked up when he was out and with when the game was being first released. He was one of the first heroes, and You could say that about a lot of the heroes in that time. Like, for example, Antimage was a guaranteed pick because he was the strongest carry. There was really no question about it. But since they've been adding hero after hero after hero, these heroes they've kind of been diminished, especially by some of the current ones. When you talk about Nature's Prophet, either teams have learned to come with new strategies. For example, Tinker, I think, has been seen a lot more as like a more of a threat late game, perhaps if he's played properly. And they just have different strategies, and so those heroes they kind of just fall off the grid a little bit. Of course, you'll see Nature's Prophet picked up a lot. He's not like gone, but he's definitely not as much of a threat like you said. And it's funny you bring up the GST. Yeah, how many games was he banned in? I would go to say maybe like 5 to 10% of the games he was banned in, and it's just so crazy different.
Yeah, I mean the thing I think overall, just in the difference between the way the bans work now is it's less we don't feel like playing against this or we think this is too strong, and it's more about okay, we see the first three, this is what we think the other team is going to go, let's maybe ban out some of these heroes. They feel like more strategic bans having that extra one on the back end. What do you think, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, with the two front ends, I get the feeling it's going to be like maybe 3 constant bans and 1 rotating.
Let's go into those. Who do you think? Although it's going to be hard because we're going to have to discuss the changes that are made, which will probably influence, like you were saying, Lycan, for example.
Lycan, I don't think he's going to be getting permaban.
Well, okay, anymore. How about before we get into these notes, who would you have said would be those first 3 to 4 bans?
All right, assuming there's no changes in the patch besides just the ban switching.
Yes.
Is that what we're saying?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
The 4 would be Lycan, Darkseer, probably Naga, and then maybe Rubik.
The 4th one's a little questionable, I think.
Yeah,
I think those first 3 we can agree on.
Yeah.
Of those, I mean, you even think about the international, Darkseer Naga, whatevs. It can be beat. It's not like these heroes are things that it's so difficult to deal with that you can't do it. I mean, it's clearly stuff that can be countered if you're good enough. I think Darkseer is really the only hero that I think of as being sort of not destructive to how the game's played, but it's just so hard to try and push into a base against him that I would probably just auto-ban him all the time. But, for the most part, for the other ones, I mean, that's what I was saying. It's almost like a lot of those other heroes are just like, we don't feel like having to play against that. We don't want to have to, go for those picks that would easily lock down the Lycan. We don't want to grab the Beastmaster with the ultimate to hold them in place so we can beat the crap out of them, or, go for some of these other crowd controls to hold them in place. We just don't want to do that. We want to do this other thing, so ban them out.
Yeah. Some teams just have strategies in mind, like you said. Some teams will just go ganking. Some teams will just go pushing. But yeah, if the other team picks an anti-mage and you're not going to be aggressive enough, oh crap, well now we got to pick up a hard carry to counter him late game, or otherwise we're going to lose. And there's just things like that. Exactly. So that third ban, like I was saying before, I feel like it was more like a luxury ban. It's just like, all right, we're going to get these 2 out of the way because we always do. And this one, I don't want to play against an Invoker. I don't want to deal with tornadoes this game. I hate tornadoes. The Weather Channel has screwed me over so many times. Tornadoes are terrible. No more Invoker. And that's been that.
We all saw Twister, and we just don't want to. It's bad.
It was
bad
a
time.
crappy movie. It honestly was. And ever since that movie, I just haven't felt the same way about tornadoes again. So
I don't even know how you can remember that movie at all.
it really is old. It was elementary school levels of old.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. I don't remember it at all.
Maybe that's why I thought it was so bad, because I just didn't understand what the heck was going on. They
Maybe
were
it was
throwing
a beautiful movie.
They were throwing
you just couldn't
cubes
appreciate
into
it.
a tornado. Why would you throw a cube in a tornado? See, back then it didn't make sense, but there probably was science behind it. So
I believe that actually literally was science behind it. I'm gonna go out on a limb, but
Anyways,
anyway,
a little off topic,
do you guys have any other thoughts about this? I mean, actually, Craig, you asked me this question and I refused to answer it before you two do. How do you think it's really going to change the way people pick? I mean, what kind of bands do you expect to come out?
Like I said, like the first 4 bands, like we said, are probably going to be pretty consistent. I mean, you can say Naga and Darkseer. The Lycan change that was in the patch is pretty big. But then there's also the Naga change is pretty big too. They nerfed her pretty good too. So, I mean, I honestly don't know. But then you've got your 3 picks. and then you have 6 additional bans. So I don't know how those last 4 picks are going to work out. Because I think most people are going to be able to read what your team is and what you need and pretty much shut you down. So I don't know.
One thing I think is kind of neat. I mean, the level of strategy now has to go into it. I mean, I know, especially when you and I cast, Jay, we always try to look at the team compositions after the first 3, and one of the things to talk about is like, okay, what are the lanes going to look like? And you find the situations where it's like, this is a really great draft because you're not committing to anything. There isn't, super push, everybody pick Kodal. Very rarely do you go, oh, you need this right now. I know when we've played Captain's Mode from time to time, you run on teams that will just pick the greatest AoE composition ever, and then we go, Pugna, lock, and then we throw the hands up and just take the W. But I think it's really going to come into how well captains are going to be able to draft and how much they're going to be able to hide from the other team.
No, the other big thing about this is the fact that, okay, they changed the bans from 2 to 3, 3 to 2, whatever, but they didn't change how many picks come right after that. So the emphasis is now so much on those last 4 picks because you have to figure you have to get a lot of those key heroes in those first 6 now because there's 6 bans after that. They're going to look at your 3 heroes and be like, wow, we have 3 bans now against those last 2 slots. So we can take out a lot of things, whereas before it was just like, just general heroes I don't want to play against. Now it's like 6 specific bans against slots, and I think that could also play a really big role in who gets picked up where along the draft.
Yeah, I agree. I think some of the other things worth mentioning as far as just overall game changes that are kind of important, the glyph duration increased by a second. The gold and EXP bounty increased, as well as in the 6.75B, Roshan no longer has mana, meaning that it's going to be a little bit more difficult for Anti-Mage to punch him in the face.
Anti-Mage. Get wrecked. I don't know. That's like a nerf to like Anti-Mage and like, I don't know, Lion.
Diffusal Blade heroes.
Yeah, I guess if people go Diffusal.
Naga Siren.
But I mean, Diffusal wasn't that strong against him to begin with because you can't use images against Roshan.
I said Diffusal, not Manta.
No, right, but like the heroes that get Diffusal are heroes that generally have images. Like, other than Riki, like Naga gets it, PL gets it. Maybe Murano will get it.
PL is the worst Roshan killer in the world. I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah, if his images worked, he'd be like the best, but they don't. So.
It's just a constant reminder of his failure. Image! Oh, crap. No. All right. Well. Oh, well. What can you do? I mean, do you guys...
when he fights Roshan? I don't think he does.
I'm not sure. Well, thanks for ruining my little scenario there, Bonk. Appreciate it.
Just to get rid of that whole situation, I think they may have made it so he doesn't spawn images because he doesn't spawn images when he fights buildings either.
True. But how about the other changes? What do you guys think?
Also another one you kind of missed. The Aegis reclaim time decreased from 10 to 6 minutes. So
That's
now
true.
It's not you don't hold on to it until he respawns. It's now you really got you kind of now it's actually nice. I think it really is going to make it that much more aggressive gameplay and make you have to actually use it instead of just sit on it until the next Roshan. Like, I'm kind of calling out these Chinese teams. I'm calling you guys out. All right, sitting on that Aegis until the next Roshan spawn until you get your stupid cheese. No. You have 6 minutes to make use of this thing, and you better darn well do it.
The other thing, too, I think, just because I don't want you to talk, Craig, but Ice Frog did mention that he was putting off the patch until after the International, too, and I think you can actually see, and you look in the Anti-Mage list of changes, that his legs were decreased. Which, to me, is clearly a nod to the Bruno Statman thing,
Yes.
and you can just clearly see that Ice Frog was taking a lot of that into account, and a lot of the heroes that we saw being crazy powerful in the International 2 did get nerfed a little bit, and so you have to wonder, like, how many of these changes were made just because of watching the International and being like, yeah, this is kind of stupid that teams are just going to sit on the Aegis because, hey, what do you know, as soon as they lose it, they have the ability to get it again.
Anti-fun.
Anti-fun. Strong word choice.
He's a strong hero.
On attack burns fun. Nobody wants that.
And how about the Enraged Wildkin's Tornado Vision decrease? That nerf, as if the bird didn't have enough trouble. He can't fly. What can he really do except put out a tornado? Now it's nerfed? I mean, the poor thing.
That tornado is actually really, really strong. You see a lot of like people who play Chan and stuff use it all the time.
Oh, I know. It actually really is kind of a big deal. That's kind of unfortunate for Enchantress players. But
I
Isn't
mean,
it kind of also?
it ruins its vision, so you can't like abuse it because it's invulnerable. So you could kind of like abuse it as like a free source of vision because it can move wherever you want it to. So it was like a moving invulnerable ward that you could just
yep, that did
drive around the
damage.
map.
It
It does damage.
slows.
It's like, "Ooh, let's go explore with my little tornado."
And speaking of the ultimate insult, how about Flightless Bird makes tornado that throws things into the air? I mean,
Yeah,
that's just bad manner, you know.
yeah. I was gonna say it's a nerf to Chen changes, but also new Helm the Dominator pickup people, which we'll get into more later in this cast.
There you go.
Sorry, that got a little
Imagine
high
something you
pitched,
want to talk
but
about.
yeah.
Not something I pointed out. But let's break into these heroes then, because I think we pretty much. I mean, obviously Glyph extension. Hooray! More time to get to your tower.
Added a 1 second cooldown to placing Observer and Sentry wards, so you
What's
don't
up?
accidentally use 2 of them in a row.
Oh, what's up? What's up? If only I could make it so that when I place one, nobody on my team can place it until I say so. That would be fantastic. If they could somehow work that into the game.
The kill gold's also big too.
Yeah,
AoE bounty kill gold. It's huge. I mean, it's going from 9 times level plus 95 to 12 times level plus 125 when there's 2 heroes. I mean, that's going to change the meta as well. It's going to like reward teams more for ganking.
for team fighting and
Yeah,
ganking, like you said, for sure. Instead of just
that's
farm
another
tests.
stab at those Chinese teams.
It is really, it really is.
And the other thing too, I mean, this is kind of time something I want to bring up clearly as I think being a really big change is just the reduction of the price of wards. Now 50 gold less, which we've seen in the past where supports are just so strapped for money they can't get the boots. Now, instead of having the shareable boots before, like we saw in sort of the preliminary change logs, now it's just that wards are cheaper, which is clearly something supports for me going for it. Now for participating in the fight, being those good supports, being in the right place at the right time, being those positional players, they're going to get more money for it. And this is really going to, I think, open up for a lot of support players. Maybe now they don't have to be so focused on just stacking bracers. They can actually work towards those items. And if we want to talk, about some of the new items, we can mention the Shadow Amulet, which might be something that some of these support heroes like the Crystal Maiden might look to grab. Just help them with some of their other spells, like their ultimates, be able to get those casts off.
The biggest change you guys haven't said is random draft hero pool count increased from 20 to 22. Kind of a big deal.
Yeah, well, RD is the current tournament style,
that's all the pros
so
play,
that
right?
makes sense.
I mean,
They probably do play it a lot when they're messing around, but as far as the pro scene goes, I don't think as much the case. Yeah, so I guess we'll start talking about items since you kind of broke the ice there.
Let's talk about heroes.
Why did you bring up Shadow Amulet if you weren't going to talk about it?
Because it worked into
That's like flaunting a new car and be like, oh, you can't drive it, the keys aren't here, sorry.
No.
Fine, you know what? Yeah, guys, I'm closing up the Shadow Amulet. No, you don't get to see it. No,
This
the
is
DLM is
structure.
mean.
You can't break the outline, Jay. This is
Yeah,
clear.
You're a hypocrite. You're literally a hypocrite right now.
Mm.
But go ahead. What hero discussion shall we start with?
I listed some of the big ones. You guys are also willing to interject with any other ones, and people in the chat, if you notice any other heroes. I mean, there were a ton of changes, so I didn't list them all, obviously, because you don't have that kind of time. But the big ones, I think, were Lycan, Morphling, Darkseer, Broodmother, and Lone Druid. All seemed to really get something that was like, well, that's kind of at least interesting, and that could potentially limit their viability in the competitive scene. So let's go ahead and talk about the Lycan one. The Wolf health halved, and the mana cost increased. Go.
Owned.
Bonk.
Owned. All right.
Would you like to elaborate?
So that just pretty much makes Lycan like a slower jungler or a worse jungler or harder to play it. I mean, he uses his wolves to tank early in the jungle. Now they're much more fragile, and they cost more mana, so you can't spam them as much. I mean, they added a 50% magic resistance. So now they can't.
Doesn't help in the jungle at all.
Yeah, it doesn't help at all because all it did was make his wolves weaker to physical. because if you cast magic on them, they still have the same amount of effective HP. So they just lost 200 damage to physical, 200 health to physical damage.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, definitely a big nerf. I mean, yeah, if you're still really good with microing and managing your wolves, you can jungle probably close to the same speed. He might not be the number one jungler now. Maybe Enigma will take that role after this, but he's still going to be a pretty fast one at the end of the day. But yeah, they will be squishy. You know, I'm thinking now about Beastmaster's axes just flying in there, almost one-shotting these poor things with that composite
Positive
damage.
damage.
But I don't know. It will be interesting to see how that plays in. You know, obviously they're a big chunk of his damage, especially early game when he's going to gank around, because they gain the same speed as his ultimate, and they really are helpful for that. But yeah, if they're a lot weaker, then of course that's going to make a big difference.
Yeah, we always, I think, talk about Lycan if he actually makes it into the game. Like some of the ways you can try and deal with him is like you ward the easy camp, because it's already pretty difficult for him to start off on just the orange camp. So I'm even wondering what kind of circuit you have to run with the Lycanthrope at this point. I mean, maybe they're looking to encourage some more lane play. I mean, he actually can be a pretty strong solo. You just stick the wolves on somebody and ensure yourself some farm. But I mean, yeah, now what happens if your yellow's warded? Now you basically you have to pull for your lane once or twice and hope for the best. And even now, it's like, quick, kill the yellow camp before the minute marker so that we can go back and kill it, and then pull the creeps, and then hopefully by then we'll have the level 2 wolves, and we'll actually be able to kill something. I feel like it's going to really hurt, and it's also going to perhaps limit his ability to kill Roshan as early. He may need a couple more levels, might need more than just the Vlads. It'll be really interesting to see.
Yeah, I didn't know that was a bug where he kept his shapeshift speed after he died with Aegis, but they took that away. So I thought that was intentional, like they wanted that to stay on. So that's kind of an interesting change. Actually, I've seen that happen a decent amount, where he'll ulti, die, and then stay fast and powerful. So that's kind of a big change too. In the end of the day, because like you said, one of his strengths also is that he can Roshan early, and if he gets that Aegis up and ults, before he could retain it, but now it's not going to be there for him.
It doesn't happen in Dota 2, I don't think.
I thought it did.
I'm pretty sure I played like. Does it?
He doesn't look like a wolf, but he's still fast when he comes out.
Because I'm pretty sure I played him and ulted like a idiot and then died and then been like, oh, now I'm screwed.
Well, maybe it just ran out duration anyways. Maybe your timing was weird. But
I don't know.
I don't know.
Think it happens in Dota 2.
Well, it definitely does. It definitely won't if it gets implemented. And by the way, that should have been the precursor. This is Dota 1, not Dota 2 changes. But we're predicting that a lot of them will carry over, if not all, just because of what happened in the winter Dota map release. That all those big changes, the items that came in, all came to Dota 2 pretty much within a month. So.
Yeah, I mean, we even heard last week when it was such a teeny tiny little patch, like, don't worry, the next one's going to be big. So, yeah, I imagine if not this patch, we will see it in the very, very near future. A lot of these changes occurring. So, yeah, maybe not immediate changes to the Dota 2 client, but it will certainly be headed our way regardless. I think another one to mention, Morphling. Cast animation time increased slightly. Mana cost increased on Morph by 10 per second. Base damage decreased by 6. Waveform AoE decreased by 55. And you notice this actually, I hadn't noticed it before the International, where if you cast something quickly enough when you waveform, you can actually start the cast time while you're traveling, giving you a little bit of extra time invulnerable. So all these things being changed.
We saw that happen a lot in TI2.
Yep.
They would cast TP as soon as they waveformed, and it would pretty much finish right after they got to their destination. So yeah, taking that out's pretty big.
I see you went from up here to Lycan, down here to Morphling, and you skipped this one right here. His name's Meepo. His clones get more stat sharing, and his Geostrike does more DPS. Best changes ever?
I'm so sorry that I missed that change that will affect the competitive scene 100% every time.
You watch.
He's
going to get picked up in some competitive game. At some point, somewhere. One time.
But what do you think, Bonk? I mean, you're probably the one of the three of us now that actually winds up playing Morphling the most. I mean, what do you think about these changes? Fair, you think?
I don't even know the cast animation thing. I guess that's kind of a big deal. Not really. The base damage sucks big time, and the morph cost sucks big time. Both early game are like hugely detrimental. just not being able to morph so like super freely because that's pretty much the survivability in morph. It's surprising they didn't do anything about morphing while stunned. You can still do that.
Yeah, I
I think
remember our friend saying that.
if you will allow me, Jay, to maybe tie in a relevant item, they also increased the mana cost on Ether Blast from Ethereal Blade by 100, which, I mean, E-Blade gets a little bit more interesting in this patch, but clearly in the past, Morphling really the only hero to take advantage of this item. So, I mean, just increasing the mana cost of all of his abilities, increasing the mana cost of his item. I mean, clearly they're trying to limit the amount of spellcasts he can get, and also the amount of tankability he's able to get out of his strength morph.
Yeah, I'm personally glad they didn't change the fact that you can start strength morphing even if you're stunned, because I felt like that was a big component to him succeeding in fights and stuff. Otherwise, because he has to, that's the thing. He has to pretty much be at like almost max agility to catch people off guard, do a lot of big burst damage with that E-Blade and stuff. And if he gets stunned out with 600 health late game, he's done for. You know, he's got no chance. So yeah, I'm kind of glad that wasn't put in. But no, you weren't allowed to do the item thing. I'm sorry.
My bad.
That was really just bad manners. Honestly.
Over the line.
It
Yeah.
really was.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, these are good changes. And it's actually interesting. You know, before you would see sometimes a bottle, sometimes a ring of Aquila, maybe just keep one. They might have to get both now with all these mana changes in order to have the same kind of sustain they had before. Because that morphing, they do it, you know, they have to do it so often, back and forth, strength and agility, to really, you know, get to catch people off guard with kills or whatnot. So, and then of course waveform, you're pretty much spamming that to kill, you know, hurt people or to get some last hits. So definitely, I think good changes all in them.
Okay.
Yeah,
How about we go Darkseer now?
let's.
Vacuum.
Go up.
I know. I have to do it too. Don't worry.
Well, mine
Feel your
is mine is zoomed in because I'm trying to show people on the stream the text.
pain.
So I have to scroll up like 5 times as much as you guys. So feel my
See,
pain.
I found your mistake. You're trying to be convenient for other people.
That's true. That is a problem, I think.
Well, here you go. Movement speed decreased slightly. Okay. Vacuum cooldown increased 3 seconds. Vacuum cast range decreased by 50. Vacuum AOE decreased as well by just about 25. That last rank. And vacuum can no longer pull invulnerable units. So hey, Naga Siren, sup?
Yep.
Owned.
Literally the only person that affects. But, you know, a very, very good change, I think, in my opinion. Well, at least, I mean, they're still going to synergize amazingly at the end of the day.
It
Yes.
won't work with people slept by Bane for the first like second or two or whatever when they're invulnerable.
Oh,
Boom.
great. Yeah, that, like,
Boom.
second or
Boom.
something.
Nerf.
Well, that's
Bane got
normally the perfect time to vacuum is when they get slept immediately. So that is going to nerf Bane substantially in this pack.
We made him.
Yeah, no, definitely a great call. And just another reason on top of the Naga changes we're getting into why it's going to make her not as threatening of a pick. She's still, of course, she's going to be in the day Naga Siren. She's going to have that ultimate. So, but yeah, at least you can't do it like premeditated. You have to kind of like with Ravage, kind of like with those moves that like you have to time it well. You know, now you got to time the vacuum. And if people can react fast enough with a blacking bar or something, then it won't be as effective.
Yeah, what
Be
Bonk's doing right
Light of
there.
Heaven and spam that BKB and completely turn a team fight around.
Yeah.
Yup.
Yeah. All right, the next one I had. This one isn't. I think.
Owned.
Well, clearly you need to talk about Naga Siren. So let's do this, Greg.
I wanna talk about how Naga Siren got owned. I mean,
I'll even let you introduce it. Do it.
You take a carry hero and you're like, hey carry hero, what's up? Oh, here, let's take 12 base damage off. Schwink. All right, carry hero, go farm.
With that sound, it's nowhere near as threatening without the schwink.
Schwink.
Clearly a big part.
What was her base
Of the
damage
nerf.
first, like to begin with?
It was preemptively. Before it was about
Pretty
47.
high, I
It was
think.
47 to 49. Now it's 35 to 37.
Is that less than Meepo? I think it might be less
Yes,
than
I think that's less than me.
That is so bad. Like, dear, oh my.
That's a really low
So
base
bad.
damage.
Good luck last hitting, Naga. I wish you good luck last hitting against this
No,
creep.
just
That's
say
probably-
hello to Quelling Blade in her new build. Is really
Yeah.
what you're going to see here.
I think creeps do like 30 damage, don't they?
It's about it's about a 25% decrease in base damage essentially.
It's a pretty big percent. Owned.
Feel the burn.
That's rough.
I think it's an interesting approach to nerfing her because obviously they realized she needed something done to her because if she's perma-banned or wins most games she's played, something's got to be tweaked. But this is the approach they take is reducing her early game, I guess, essentially. So kind of interesting.
It's really strange. Like, I don't feel like that's the issue because I feel like when you see Naga Siren in games where you don't do the, as much as I hate to say it, wombo combo with the ultimate, at least in the games I've seen recently, her win rate isn't really that great. You try and take her late game without something to combo the ultimate with, and she's all right. But really, I think it takes her quite a long time to get up to a great position to be able to do a ton of damage because you are looking to go for that Radiance or maybe even looking to go for a Vanguard before you go into anything else. I don't feel like her damage is really the issue.
Well, you're talking about like her having trouble. Like when people let her go through in the tournaments and stuff, they usually either banned or picked the heroes that she would normally combo with. But with the new ban system, those heroes are going to be more available. So she's gonna. I think it's gonna be easier to make combinations with her with only 4 bans off the start. That's all.
True story.
Yeah, but I don't know. I guess it's just a different way of trying to make her less desirable.
That's what I'm saying. It's really interesting that that's the approach they took.
Like,
it just makes her. I think it just makes her weaker mid game. She can't get as many survivability items early, so she's easier to shotgun. She won't be able to get like a Vanguard and power and like steam boots.
She's going to have to change her build up. Yeah, like I said, Quelling Blade might even be a potential, or like 2 Wraith Bands or something. Just give her really, not Wraith Bands, but Slippers of Agility. Just give her that. But yeah, start with 2 Wraith Bands. I think you'll do pretty well. But yeah, and like there's a couple suggestions on like some Reddit posts. Like for example, like one person was like, maybe give her a cast time on her ultimate, like a 1-second cast time, so that way you can't be moving and using it. You have to set it up kind of. Or another person was saying something about the radius, cutting it down 100 or so, like because obviously that range is ridiculous. Like, so there's all these other suggestions, and then we're like, nope, base damage, early game, shut down early game, no late game Naga for you.
It just makes her easier to kill. I mean, that's huge. I mean, you catch a stone on her sometime, maybe before she gets her ult off, and you blow her up before she can even ult. Then...
Well, she didn't lose health; she just lost damage.
But I mean, if you lose damage, you lose farm, which means you lose health on Naga. Because you always need HP items on Naga. Because she has a really low base strength, I think. I mean, even with like Vanguard and strength, power tread, she only has like 1300 health or something. If I can recall correctly.
You probably don't.
And I'm not saying level 25, I'm saying like relevant level.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that is huge, so it'll be really interesting to see how that impacts her pickability. The other ones... I guess the Lone Druid is probably the most prevalent one. I did also list the Broodmother just because I think it's interesting and how that's going to play into people picking her up. Lone Druid can't resummon the bear while it's taking damage, so you can't just automatically recreate it. So now you take the damage, basically, from him going down. Thoughts?
Bonk,
Jay?
say something.
Strong.
Yeah, I guess I'm the Lone Druid player of the group. If you will. Although last time I played it was pretty awful, but let's not get into that. Okay, to be fair, I have to explain myself now that I started saying it. I was trying the TI2, well, actually more GST recently, of being in the off lane, pulling the creep wave to you when you're soloing. And it is a lot harder than it looks to do, especially really well. But anyways, enough on that little topic there. Yeah, this is a big deal. I mean, obviously... they could obviously just simply resummon him, and it wouldn't be a big deal. But he loses a couple hundred health, 300. How much is it the last rank? It's like
I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4.
400 health. I mean, of course he's going to probably be in his ulti form, so it's only going to be a small chunk, but it's a chunk that he didn't lose before. So every little bit counts.
Yeah, I mean, I was never too much of a believer in Lone Druid being like way too strong that he needed to be brought down a bit, but I definitely think it is kind of There's a thing where you basically get to taunt out abilities and taunt out damage from the enemy team trying to take down your bear, and then you just recreate it, no big deal. It does the same thing with the return. It's like, while it's taking damage, you don't want to allow it to be returned for the same reason, and that's just, another defense about that. The Broodmother thing that I wanted to point out, unless you had something to add, Craig? No? Shaking his head? Shaking his head, no. Spawn Spiderite bounty increased from 11 to 13. Yeah.
That's what they're called?
Yeah, they're called Spiderites.
I thought they were called Spiderlings. I've always called them Spiderlings.
Well, I think there's Spiderites.
There too.
And then Spiderites spawn Spiderlings.
Oh, excuse me. There are
Broodmother spawns Spiderites. Spiderites spawn Spiderlings. Spiderlings do nothing but attack and die.
Okay.
And spawn unicorns.
Oh, yes.
The bounty increased from 11 to 13 to 16 to 21.
What happened?
Okay.
I just missed that.
They increased the bounty from 11 to 13 to 16 to 21.
Bank being made killing broodling spiderlings now.
Holy crap, look at the buff on incapacitating bite.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess I'll say it. No longer gives... Hey, look at it, everyone.
Look at it,
because this
guys.
is also a podcast.
Next
So,
topic.
hey, everyone on the podcast, look at my notes. Yeah. So it no longer gives 2, 4, 6, 8 bonus damage, but instead, the miss rate chance increases from 10 up to 25, all the way up to 40%. So 15% increased miss chance. Miss chance being a big pain in the butt for a lot of carries, because the only way they can counter that out is MKB. Oh, no, excuse me. It's miss chance. That's not the same as getting dodged. So you can't counter miss chance, I believe. I think that's something you just have to deal with unless you're Black and
makes
Bard.
it so you can't miss.
Oh, it's miss? Okay. I thought things can't be dodged. Is that the same thing?
It's the same thing, kind of. MKB just makes
Okay.
it so all of your attacks.
But
can
how
miss.
many carries build MKB? Not a ton of them off the bat, so this might force them to. That's actually a pretty interesting
MKB is
change.
almost never your first item.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I think it's just sort of interesting. I mean, we've already seen Tidehunters especially do really well against the Broodmothers because the Anchor Smash does enough damage to kill them all. Now you're giving even more money, and it's like now the point where is it worth giving someone all that money? I mean, now this isn't just your Blink Dagger. This is potentially moving towards your Hood, moving towards the Pipe. Maybe this is even going like for Heaven's Halberd. Oh, okay, I'll just farm up these creeps, and then now I have an answer for your other carry. I'm a little bit tankier, and I can disarm. I mean, I think there are a lot more questions that can come up now that it's giving more gold, despite the fact that the incapacitating bite a lot stronger. Although I'm going to miss the bonus damage because I'm terrible at last hitting in early levels with Broodmother.
Probably not play Broodmother.
That's why I don't.
All right, so that's a
Yeah.
pretty good small change there. Did you have any
All
ones
right.
you wanted to cover, or do you want to let us take over which ones we want to cover?
No.
Oh my
No.
God, Mr.
Is
Structure.
it-
Can you
Is
just
it
get into
is it competitively viable?
All of these are competitively viable.
I'm just trying to hit the ones that are gonna certainly be in the game, and I figured after
There's
we
some
get
that are
through all the
completely viable
competitive
that
stuff.
aren't in Dota 2.
I know, but this is a
Well,
Dota 2
we're not talking-
podcast.
All right, Chen.
We're talking about
Chen.
Dota 1 changes.
Chen.
Shan.
Chen.
Yeah.
Do it.
Holy Persuasion no longer has the ability to teleport allied units. Instead, Test of Faith has a secondary ability that lets you teleport. So basically, you get a free extra move that you get to use separate of your other ones. So you still get to basically, now you don't have to make the choice of summoning or gaining control of a neutral or teleporting an ally. Instead, you get to do both, and it's just more for him to do. It's pretty nice.
I guess you're the cheniest person here, Honks. What do you think?
I think you're logicking that wrong. It
Am
just
I?
makes it so you can cast Test of Faith on an ally and it teleports them home. It was like that at first. They
Oh,
changed it to make Holy Persuasion do
Is
it,
that what
and
it
now they're
did?
just changing it back.
oh, damn it! Oh, excuse my language. Shoot! I read that completely different, and you're right. No, it's not a big buff for Chen.
No.
That's sad.
They actually kind of nerfed
Why?
it by
Dang
doing
it! That makes him more of having to be like a minion master. I liked it the way it was. Why would they do that? I
Blame
hate
Puppy?
you,
I
Ice
don't
Frog. Ice Frog.
Blame Puppy.
It's a good thing I don't play. It's a good thing I don't play Chad, or I would be pretty upset about this. All right, what do you guys think about it? Since obviously I have feelings.
I just
It ain't nerf Shen.
I
Yeah.
think it's just really strange that now there is no reason to get penance ever.
Yeah.
Like, you're clearly going to want the creeps from the jungle. I'm talking about competitively. Of course, we know, Jay, you like to blow people up with the penance build. But as far as competitive scene goes now, I mean, you don't really have the choice, whereas before, Holy Persuasion is really all your utility, and now you get to choose. Do you want the slow or do you want the extra burst damage? Which do you really need for the situation? I think you think most of the time you're going to wind up going for the Test of Faith regardless, but now it's not even an option.
Chat. Which one do you prefer? Chat, Mr. Quiet's
Chat.
over there, Mr. and Mrs. I should say. People being so quiet in chat. I want this discussion to ramp the bleep up. Anyways, I don't know. It definitely, if it's the way Craig's saying, which I would definitely think it is. I mean, I literally don't understand why they would revert it back. Like, it's not like Chen was overpowered or anything. It's not like having it that way was making him imbalanced. Late game, you're not in the jungle taking neutrals anymore. Instead, you're trying to nuke people, you're trying to penance people, and you're trying to send people home. So those should be your three abilities with your heal. Now you have to choose between doing true damage to someone or sending someone home, and then hoping you can enchant like a melee creep or something. Yeah, it definitely doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
We're figuring out how wrong Bonk is at the moment.
How wrong is Bonk?
Win is saying that I'm wrong. It's possible. And if I am wrong and if he really does have another ability, that would be awesome.
Oh, maybe this guy's actually played it Dota 1.
Oh, he's getting
This is what we have not done. And please let
getting a
Bonk
link.
be wrong.
I gotta
Because if
go,
he
guys. He's getting a link.
Oh, good.
We here at Dota On Demand, we do this Fox News style. We just say stuff and we check the facts later.
That's
Don't
right.
worry.
We have that little quick running list at the end of the episode that says all of our wrong facts. It would go
That's
on
actually just
forever.
as long as the episode.
I was going to say, that would go on like half the episode right there.
Anyway,
So
We'll
before
get back to you guys.
Let's get
on
back to
one.
that one.
did you
Right.
see the Doombringer level death change?
Yes, but is that competitively viable? That's what we're finishing off here.
Yeah,
I don't
we'll
know. I
get to
think
the-
Doom's ulti is
Well-
pretty good.
Well, hold
Get to that
on.
stuff later. We're
And now
almost
his
there.
Doom does more damage.
We're through the meat of it, Craig. Look, we're here. Right? You got this,
I can't.
and then you
see
got
that.
and
See,
you
I
got
just
that.
see,
There's
like,
not
purple.
much.
It's not.
There's
it's
not much
very-
left.
Say the Juggernaut change. He's used.
Juggernaut. Hold
So
on. let me-
Juggernaut
see.
one shots creeps
Yes.
Jay.
What's
Oh
up?
yeah,
That
that.
that
With Omni
aren't
Slash.
player
And
controlled, and that
there's
is hilarious.
One more change. Base attack time reduced by 0.1 second.
Great.
Thank you
Well,
for that one. I'm
matters
really
too
glad
much.
you interrupted me.
That
for
makes
that
his
one.
ult even better because he can auto attack while ulting.
Poke, 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 poke.
Yeah, no, I definitely think Omni Slash is actually a relatively large change. I mean, obviously, it's really unfortunate when he pops that ultimate and a creep wave suddenly appears out of nowhere, and now he's just bouncing around, hitting them multiple times. Like you also said, neutrals in the jungle, perhaps. It's not going to one-shot those. In fact, if he wants to be really a silly goose, he could go into a stacked group of neutrals and just Omni Slash, and he could literally kill all of them in one hit and get a lot of money really quick.
I really do kind of want to go Aghanim Scepter. First item now in Juggernaut. You get more bounces and just see how that would work. I think that'd be hysterical. Yeah, I think it would be really interesting to see. But, we'll have to wait till the changelog hits Dota 2. Here we go. Items, and then we have one other fairly short bit. So let's go through that. And then we can just talk about whatever we want. Wards, 150. Boom, we kind of already mentioned that. What is this? E-Blade mana cost? Boom, mentioned that. The Manta cost increase, I think, is a big one because that's one that's really been showing up a lot lately, especially on the Tiny as well. Just grab it because more illusions attack faster, yada yada. Increasing that, but also decreasing the cost of Sage as well as Yasha, so making that a little bit easier for other people to get.
Oh, that's why they increased the cost. Okay. That makes a little sense. They're trying to offset it. Yeah, because they
made-
both... Yeah.
They made Armlet better by making it 1 second toggle.
Yeah. Oh my god.
It's
If
huge.
that doesn't
So you
get picked up on all Chaos Knights in the pro scene from now on, I would be thoroughly shocked.
So you can't accidentally screw yourself over by toggling Armlet too many times. You only have to wait 1 second instead of 5, where you go like armlet, oh crap, it's on cooldown. Oh no,
How
oh
much
no.
abuse can you do with that, though? 1 second to give yourself roughly a few hundred health? That seems a bit ridiculous.
I think the
Yeah.
other big one too is BKB can no longer be sold.
Yup.
Big, decent. That's like in the middle.
Yeah, I guess for super farm games that becomes important because now you have to live with your 5 second cooldown. But yeah, now you can't get rid of it. Look to buy a new one and get the full duration out of it. There were some other things.
Desolator
What?
debuff
Yeah,
over
the time.
double duration.
Very
Went from
true.
7 to 15 seconds.
Which one did?
Stygian Desolator.
Wait, have you guys not said the enormous item changes yet? Are we saving those for later or something?
E-Blade
No,
can be
we're-
cast on allies.
E-Blade Force Staff, those are my top two.
E-Blade.
Yeah.
Oh, and
So I
its
think
primary, its damage is based off your primary ability,
Thank you, yes.
or primary attribute. Sorry.
Yeah. Enormous. Like,
Why?
game changing, yes. Game changing.
I mean, you're not gonna
Why?
find
Because
E-Blade
now
in
Outworld
any
Destroyer is
hero.
going to get picked up, that's why. Now he will get picked. Craig, you're going to play him every single time. I don't think BDM even realized that combination until just now. Oh my god. He's
like-
going to be stacking in like he always does. And now he's got a nuke. And then think
That would
about
mean E-Blade would have to be like your second or third item.
Yeah,
Probably third.
yeah. What's wrong with that?
It's too expensive. It's
Shotgun
not good
Outworld.
enough. It's like 5,000 some gold.
He farms?
See, I was just thinking
If
that
you
now
could-
Morphlings would be able to strength morph
Oh.
and then still hit really hard. I would.
If you could change
That
it
was me.
to give you an attribute of your choice instead of always agility, then it would be ridiculously good. But you can't. It always gives you agility.
Yeah, I still feel like it's just a Morphling item still.
Yeah, I feel like it is too. Sorry, Jay. Sorry to ruin your
No.
dreams.
No, you're wrong, and you're going to be proven wrong when this does come in. But also, and this is the problem, I'm also thinking in terms of Dota 1 with my favorite hero that hasn't been released yet. The new hero. God, I can't
Flux,
remember his
Arc,
name.
Arc.
You know,
Holy
I don't
crap.
see how you're gonna make E-Blade work on techies. I don't see
Well,
it.
No, I really am not talking about techies this time, but shotgun techies, just imagine the pain trade that
Just
would be.
imagine E-Blade, pop the ult.
Oh my
Stand on
god,
a leg
Matt,
with
what's
Mark.
his name?
Arc
What's-
Warden?
No.
What?
Oh my gosh. This is
What?
very upsetting. There he is.
By the way, it's
Skywrath
an
Mage. Dragonis.
Skywrath Mage?
He stacks in like no one's business. And
still
he's
don't know why
all
you're
about
thinking
nuking and magic damage.
He is all about him.
So
that's true.
shotgun, so using E-Blade and then ulting right on top of them, they're gonna get blown up. Yes.
I'm not digging the int still. But I do think, I mean, we're not going to talk about it because, I mean, 2 new heroes did get added. We're not going to talk about them because clearly we'd like that information for later podcasts when they actually get added to Dota 2. But that will be hilarious on Arc Warden that you'll be able to double E-Blade somebody for a jillion damage.
Literally a jillion.
But that's neither here nor there. The other one that you did mention is the Force Staff as well. Now, you can't
Huge.
Force Staff through Kinetic Field. What's up, Disruptor?
Say hello to
And-
Disruptor
and-
Picks.
And the recipe cost gets increased to 500.
Yeah, and then not so. Of course, obviously the big changes with Kangfield. Disruptor's already getting picked up here and there, and I think this is just only going to make that much better of a case for him. Because when you see games in professional scenes against him, you see like a minimum 2 to 3 Force Staffs on the other team, like minimum. And now it's like not going to work. So they're going to be trapped there for 3.5 seconds if you catch them right or with a glimpse. And then you're also going to be able to time that with your ultimate and not worry about them escaping. So just making Disruptor that much stronger of a hero for sure. And then with the power cogs working, I really like that change too. So when they force staff out, they can, but they get affected by the cogs and they take damage and get mana drain. So at least it
Cogs.
still kind of affects them.
The Cog's push also takes precedence over Force Staff.
So you
So
can't
if you-
Force Staff into the cogs.
Yeah, you can't Force Staff in. If
Oh.
you Force Staff
For
out,
some
as soon
reason.
as the Cog push hits you, you slow down to whatever the Cog push, movement speed push is.
Yeah. In case you wanted to force staff into some cogs. Just
You know,
for fun.
I mean, it's interesting for out, too. You can't get out quite as fast. It slows you down a little
Yeah,
bit.
it does. You're right for sure. But I think those 4 stat changes are huge. Oh, and then of course the Helm of the Dominator, which
Yep.
I was going to discuss because
Instant or infinite duration with a
which I
cooldown
was going
speed.
to discuss. What part of that do you not understand in this
You
conversation?
said
Fuck.
was, not am going to.
That's true. Yeah, so like you said, no longer has a duration on the creep. 300-second cooldown going down to 60. So from 5 minutes to 1. And then dominating creep, you already have control. When you already have one controlled, will replace the current. So the first one just dies. But I think not like game breaking change, but definitely very helpful for people that use it primarily to stack ancients and whatnot. You know, when you're against teams that have randomized or something, or they just find it and kill it. Now you gotta wait another few minutes to get a new one. Whereas now you can just pick one up, or if you didn't like the one you had, you could get one that's good for ganking, like a troll warlord or something that has a net. You know, get a lot more options, and you can make better use out of an item such as that than you could before.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's really nice just having that overall just buff to that. And I think are we good? Are there any other items that we wanted to point out?
Well,
Mm-hmm.
Lothar's Edge, but that kind of involves the brand new item.
Do it. I
All
dare
right.
you.
So the duration goes from 9 to 12 seconds. So that's a nice little change there. And then also now it's a new recipe rework. So now it requires a claymore and then the Shadow Amulet, which is the brand new item. And let's go into what the Shadow Amulet is. Okay. It costs 1,600 gold, and it provides 30 attack speed and has an active. So by the way, so I guess it's pretty much like a Ghost Scepter, and like that's just an item, and you just buy it out of the shop straight up because it's not built or anything. And it's actually the same exact price as a Ghost Scepter, which is kind of funny. But anyways, 30 attack speed, and then the active is Fade. So you know Templar Assassin very well by now. You pretty much get meld, but it takes longer to fade.
You get meld, except it's not instant, and you don't get any bonus damage, and there's no negative armor.
Well,
But it's
it's
just
but
like meld.
that's how you. What else would you compare it to?
I
That's
don't know.
exactly
It's
what it
just an
is.
invis
It's an invis that doesn't wear out.
that you can't move.
Well, yes, that's why I was compared to TA. Thank
I
you.
guess.
Thank you. Yeah, but it does take 2.75 seconds to eventually fade out. And like you said, if you move, you lose invisibility. No cooldown. I didn't actually even read that the first time I was looking at this item. What? No cooldown?
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
doesn't that seem weird?
I mean, the cooldown's essentially 2 3/4 seconds.
Yeah,
Because,
so it's incredibly short.
but I mean, why would you ever? I mean, I guess you could like use it, and then be invis, and then move to a juke spot and use it again, or I don't. Doesn't seem to
I don't know.
matter.
I think it's weird that it has a.
I
Most
think
items
it's
have a cooldown.
I think it's really expensive and not a very good item.
Oh,
Aw.
I would never see someone picking that up if they weren't going Lothars.
Well,
Crystal Maiden.
Oh, that's true. You can use it on some heroes like Crystal Maiden and Witch Doctor and stuff.
Witch
Yeah.
Doctor for sure.
And I mean that's the thing too. Now that these supports are gonna have more gold because they're not spending as much on the wards, and they're also just getting more from the bounty increase. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what the supports look to get because I mean, like I was kind of mentioning earlier, it's like when you get so little money to actually buy your items. That's kind of part of the reason I think behind the bracer. It's just so cheap, the individual pieces, that you can get those fairly reliably, and that'll just give you the base stats to stay alive. So now, maybe you have the option to actually save up some money. Maybe the Shadow Amulet is something you want to get to try and give yourself a different kind of survivability.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a Ghost Scepter, but a different way to interpret it, more or less. So, I don't know. It's interesting for sure.
So here I think is the fun part. I think uh, all the buffs is what I titled it in my notes. There are 3 heroes. There may be more that I didn't catch, but I thought this is kind of funny and will be interesting to sort of talk about. 3 heroes that got buffs to every single one of their abilities. Clearly, Ice Frog felt like they needed to be buffed. And so the question now becomes, are they now viable? Those heroes that are in Dota 2 that got buffs to all their abilities, Alchemist, Drow Ranger, and Sniper. What do you think about the? Do you want to take any of these, Craig? Any of these particularly interesting to you?
Sniper is the worst hero in the world.
So Sniper, his buffs include. Let's take a look.
I didn't even know what they are, but I can guarantee you they're not good enough to make him playable.
Who are you
Headshot
talking about? Are you
damage.
talking about Alki?
No, we're talking
No,
about Sniper.
sniper.
We'll give you a minute. It sounded like your boom went up, so I thought we would give you a second. Uh, the headshot damage increased at the last rank from 60 to 75. Take aim range, last rank increased by 40. Shrapnel AoE increased by 10. Shrapnel duration increased by a second.
Oh, Sniper still sucks.
Yes.
If that's what you're saying. Yeah, Sniper
Yeah.
still sucks. This wasn't at all the changes he needed at all.
They just need to give him flare shot like
Yeah, well, they
Just
need to do something with that spell. I still feel like it's kind of interesting how they're trying to approach things. They want to be just okay, yeah, 10 more AOE and 1 more second of was it 30 damage a second, so another like 30 damage or something. But really, these are like minor tweaks to a hero, which is just not.
just make him broken. Just look at Han and be like, all right, they know how to balance, and just start making changes from Han.
I feel bad for that hero. He truly can be a powerful auto attacker in the fights, but it's just all these other carries at least provide something for team fights. He literally provides jack squat.
Dude, he's great at killing people after team fights.
Yep, he's good at
Oh,
finishing off
boom,
enemies.
Done.
You know,
Best
you need
hero in the
someone.
game.
I just realized that he actually didn't get a change to all 4 of his abilities. Apparently, I just really wanted to talk about Sniper because they didn't
He's
change
all
the ultimate.
the same.
It was Alchemist, Drought, and Spirit Breaker. So go ahead with the Alchemist. Go crazy, Jay. Go cray.
Go cray.
At Shiz Cray,
A little
what's
bit.
she order?
The fish flight. So obviously his acid spray. Well, not obviously. His acid spray. In case it wasn't obvious, his acid spray mana cost went from 160 and now it scales, so it starts at 130 and goes up to 160. So a little easier early game. The damage per second is increased from. Okay, these are like early game things for him. So instead of 8, 16, 24, now it's 14, 20, 26 in the first 3 ranks. His base attack time is decreased a little bit in his ultimate, Chemical Rage. Goblin Greed counter duration increased 5 seconds, so you'll get that gold longer, which is nice. The gold scaling adjusted from an amount to a different amount. Actually, it's scaling even more. Oh, so he's going to scale a lot of gold. Do you want me to say
Okay,
specific
yeah,
numbers, or
okay.
should I just keep going? He gets more
I
gold.
mean, you should
He
just.
gets more gold.
Yeah.
Fine. You know what? You like to give brief ones. I have to be detailed. We're different people. Unsell Concoction, max damage increased. No longer displays the countdown number to enemies. And, drumroll please, it always affects 100. That was a terrible drumroll. It always affects 175 area around it when it explodes. Boom.
AoE and stable concoction.
Well,
It affects the 175 even when it blows up on himself.
oh,
So
true.
he could.
So
he
now
could,
you definitely get the Blink Dagger.
he
you
could jihad you. Just beware.
Destruct.
And you were wondering, BDLM, before in the patch notes when they currently had you can cast it on yourself. You were wondering. There's the reason they had that in there before. You know,
What?
self hurt yourself to make sure other people get stunned too makes a ton of sense, in my opinion.
You can cast it on yourself.
Exactly.
No, you could 1 point in the beta, and then they took it
Oh,
off because it's
So-
so stupid.
So what do you? I mean, obviously you always want to see him, but do you think this actually adds to any of his viability?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the countdown timer is a big change. It's kind of like what they're doing to Spirit Breaker, which we'll get into, but basically a factor that lets enemies know what's going on. Taking that out and making it a little more mysterious, kind of adds that element of
spooky
surprise. You have to like be more aware of how long he's been casting that. And if he's running in from the jungle, you don't know how much time's left on that anymore. You're
Or
gonna have to
blinking
just
in
be
from the
careful.
river?
Or blinking in from the river, because Blink Dagger should obviously be your first item. And then, of course, the
nice.
AoE, it's not a big AoE. It's really not. But it has potential to hit multiple people, and that's kind of cool to give him an AoE besides Acid Spray.
new alchemist meta. Get the shadow amulet. Boom. Start channeling. Pop that shadow amulet. What's up, bro? Throwing a concoction
And
at
then
you.
they just run because you're standing there.
Because you start channeling, and then you go invis, and then they turn the corner, and then you come out and throw it at them.
Oh, That takes a lot of preparation, I think.
Well,
And
It's like Blink Dagger, and
you
that
gotta
even
be
gets more viable.
pro to play Alchemist.
you do. That is a fact.
Pro
It even
hero.
gets more viable with the increased gold from Goblin's Creed.
Either way,
I'm
it's
gonna keep
buffs.
pushing Blink until
It
it
is
happens.
buffs, and maybe no, I'm not gonna say we're gonna see him in pro games, but we might see more in pubs. So there you go. There's a change.
Fantastic.
Dude, I got a pretty good win rate with Alchemist, just saying.
Glad to hear it.
Spirit Breaker, since you brought it up, that's actually one that I'm actually pretty interested in, to be honest. Let's go ahead and let's find this guy here. Increase base strength by 6, damage increased by 9. Charge of Darkness no longer gives a buff indicator. The other really big change is the fact that Greater Bash will now affect BKB targets and magic immune targets, which is fantastic. There was some other stuff to get moved around. Empowering Haste doesn't give damage. Now your movement speed increases the damage of your bash, and there are really just some other minor things in there. But I mean, clearly, I think the big two right there, that Charge of Darkness only gives buff indicator, and the Greater Bash can go through PKP. Thoughts?
I think he got owned in the landing phase.
Yeah, he's a little more bursty, random instead of consistent.
Empowering haste, not giving damage, really hurts him in the landing phase. Makes it harder to last hit and stuff.
It does, but potentially buffs him later. With you get a lot of attack speed, perhaps more bashes.
If you go,
I don't know.
Cedric
It's interesting
Mask of
because
Madness and get blown up like an idiot.
it really is interesting. Yeah, obviously, like I said, he's not consistent anymore, so you're going to have to really depend on those bashes to do a big chunk of damage. Obviously, hitting magic immune mobs is a big deal, allowing him to compete with people once they get BKB, at least somewhat. And then, of course, the Charge of Darkness is the most important change, I think, to this hero, kind of similar to like the Alchemist change, where your enemy no longer has that heads-up knowledge that you're coming in to gank. Now they have to be this crazy thing called aware of what's going on in the mini map. It's this really strange foreign concept that isn't looked upon in pubs or games, but really is going to come into play with this hero.
My nine
Do you have
map.
any idea what he's talking about being aware in the mini map or
No.
something? I don't.
What is a mini map, really? I don't even.
All I know is when I play DotA, I get my little Ricer hat and I just
Wait,
my lane.
is that the corner of the stream that I've been putting Real Housewives in to watch during the games?
God, I hope not. God, I
Maybe
hope
Hope
not.
that's
so.
it.
That would be great.
That would be terrible. No, I thought you just had a picture of yourself in the corner, so you could just every time you got a kill, you're like, "Good job, Matt," and like high five the
Yeah,
screen.
you the best man.
Dude, I did for you. Did for
I'll
you.
see you tonight.
That was getting a little personal. Yeah, so obviously, I think that's actually going to be really helpful, and he's been picked up in the pro scene, maybe
They've
for
been
troll-ish
trying.
reasons, but picked up nonetheless and done pretty well. Even late game against like Chaos Knight and Morphling and other heroes, he's actually kind of almost held his ground if he can get tanky enough and get enough items, which is pretty interesting to think about. So this could only make him that much more viable.
Last one, Drow Ranger. Then we get to talk about whatever we want. Let's get this one going.
Yay.
Frost Arrows, slow, increase from 56%, level 4. Marksman, level 3, 45 to 60 agility gain. True Shot Arrow increases your percent damage by 4% at the last rank. And silence cooldown reduced by 2 seconds from 15 to 13. Does anyone care?
Jar was already decently viable.
Let's not
I
throw
said
words around.
decently.
Yeah, that's one of the words that you should be throwing around. Yeah, I mean, because
Decently
here's the thing
viable.
too. You even look back as far as International 1, and you saw a lot of issues with her just because she doesn't have an escape, and those kind of things. Now you have even more heroes that I think can really abuse heroes without escape mechanisms. So I really.
But she can shut down quite a few escape mechanisms. It's just silence.
I don't know.
Oh.
I mean,
I don't think she's as bad as people think she is, but she's also very, very difficult to play because she's so reliant on items.
she is. She's like a Luna in that regard, where she needs 3 big items, I think, to really start dominating team fights because she doesn't have that survival factor. A lot of them build that helm on the Dominator early to lifesteal to try, and then the Manta to really try to survive early kills, but it's at least this extra damage is gonna like help her case that much more to build defensive items instead of DPS items like Bucking Bar and such. Because I think that'll help out in the long run.
Like, the buff to her level 3 marksman and the buff to True Shot Aura are two buffs that scale with each other. Because True Shot Aura is based off base damage, and base damage is only affected by agility or whatever your primary attribute has to be. So the buff to her ult and the buff to True Shot Aura is like a double buff.
Double buff across the sky.
All the way across the...
It's weird that like they didn't increase her agility at the early levels, so it doesn't really scale. It's just all of a sudden now at your last rank you have a lot more.
Yeah, it goes from
I think
15 to 30 to 60, so it just doubles every level.
Yeah, which is crazy
strange.
significant, but it's like now I feel like she's still gonna have trouble in the early game trying to get those base items. Really are gonna depend on, I guess, that extra damage from the True Shot Aura to try and stand up and be able to deal enough damage in team fights. I don't know. Don't think she's gonna get picked up because of it, but good to see that she's getting increased. And that's the other thing too. Just to point out about all these things, I think it's really interesting. We look at the last big patch as well. Anti-Mage got a little bit nerfed. He got a little bit nerfed this time, and it's just really nice to see that's just very subtle tweaking, just trying to bring these heroes down a little bit at a time, without just going removed fourth ability.
Just going, hey, Anti-Mage, just a little tap down, whatever, and then they're just bringing up like giant broom and just bringing everybody up to par with them. They're trying so hard to bring everybody up to par with the carrier. The heroes get picked all the time. Like, was Tide even changed in these patch notes?
Tide got nerfed. The speed of his ultimate is slower,
yeah,
but that's
right.
not.
It's not huge, but means you might be able to outrun it. Not outrun it. Like, if you're standing next to him, you're still gonna get hit. But like, if you're on the edge, you might be able to get out in time.
Yeah, so some small things. Now, if you guys are in the chat and you have things that you really want to talk about, I know somebody did actually bring up the Kunkka, the buffs that he got, the base strength increase, the buffs to the ghost ship and with the cooldown, as well as the
Ghost ship got buffed big time.
Yeah, talk about it. I believe in you.
Oh, I gotta go find him now. I remember it got huge buff, Kunkka. All right.
The ghost ship cooldown is reduced at the last rank from 70 to 40, and then the AoE increases by 25 at all ranks,
so
and then of course the base strength by 3.
His ult now at the first level has a lower cooldown than it did at the last level by 10 seconds.
Yep.
So now it goes from 60 to 40 instead of 90 to 70.
I think that's really nice too, because it's like
last
having
level.
such a long
Guys.
cooldown.
I'm gonna go farming. Just gonna throw my boat every 40 seconds at the creep wave.
I was gonna say you're gonna hear a lot more fail boats in games. That is 100% true.
40 seconds. I'm just gonna give it a throw.
You have to. It's like an in-chat version alt now. You just kind of go for it. And if it misses, it misses. But you had to try. You know.
Yeah, I definitely like that too, because on such a long cooldown, it really is like, if you miss that, then you're like, okay, so why did you pick Kunkka again? Like, there's really long, I mean, not that 70 seconds is really long, but when you consider the kind of tool that can be, it's a really long time. If that's what you're trying to use for your initiation now, now we gotta wait a minute before we can try and do something. So really cool that they got to see that. And it also brings up, his lane potential a little bit. Increasing that base strength, going to increase his damage, going to increase the Tidebringer damage, which of course is always crazy annoying.
Dude, this isn't a huge change, but Kotal's Illuminate max hit distance increased from 1600 to 2000. Why does that go across the world? I don't understand.
Jay, did you see the techies change?
Oh my god, I didn't.
There were 2 changes. One of them
now
was,
starts with an E-blade?
No. One of them was he got armor increased by 6.
Holy moly.
I don't know where that came from.
That makes a ton of sense.
They just gave him 6 armor for some reason.
Yes.
The other one was like cooldown on his landmines or something.
Okay, 6 armor? Yes. No, that makes perfect sense. He is literally like a melee caster. He has to get in there to cast his landmines, as well as his stasis traps. I mean, his ultimate, of course, it has a far range on his mines. People have no idea what I'm talking about if they're just playing Dota 2. But the point is, that was a good change for him, and I think will help him severely. Good job, Ice.
It'll help him suicide you more.
Be the last hero into the game.
Dude, there's so many Dota 1 changes that we'll have to talk about when they get introduced to Dota 2. Like the heroes, like, oh my god, That Torn Chiefin change, that's all I have to say. Holy moly, that's awesome. But we're not going to get into that because I'm sorry, guys, to throw it out there, but I know you don't know what we're talking about, and I don't want to burden you with knowledge that's not going to be useful for months to come. So why bother? Shadow Fiend change. That has to be the next one.
Do it.
That has to be the next one. So, yeah. Yep, bonk. His Requiem of Souls, his ultimate, has a new passive component that triggers upon death. So upon dying, half his souls, the amount that basically he would lose, will be released as if you had cast it with these souls. The cast does not put the spell on cooldown and will still trigger even if it's on cooldown. So you basically get 2 alts in the team fight if you get to cast the first one, which is pretty awesome.
I think it's really cool too because when we, every once in a while we like to tie in the other MOBAs. You think about how he was played in Han. He was really like blank dagger bots, and then now we'll get to carry items, or BKB or something. And it really was kind of like a make or break whether if you got that spell off or not. And something I think when you look at how he's played in Dota 2, he's really not. The blink dagger isn't really common. You really are just trying to make him that late game carry. And even then, he's this hero where it's like, okay, you can kill him fairly easily, and then what's he going to do? And now it's almost like you have to be very careful about killing really at all stages of the game once you hit level 6, because if it's going to be a close fight, he still might be able to kill you.
It's true. Even if you die, you still might get the kill.
Yeah, I was actually thinking, like, if he had an Aegis, does it proc on that death as well?
That would be amazing.
Does he get 3 ultis in one fight, potentially?
You should. I don't see why not.
Yeah, it is a death. So that's a death. So I would agree with that statement. So that's a neat little change there. There's so many neat ones. Does someone else want to take over, or can I catch another one?
Are you both eating?
Oh my god, I had to have a Mike and Ike. I'm sorry.
I'm eating an apple. What do you want from
I
me?
had to have a Mike and Ike. So sue me.
At least I'm not eating candy.
Well then, if you're so worried about me eating, say another thing.
Jakiro.
He just wants you to say more so he can continue eating Mike and Ike's. Mute Mike. Go ahead, Matt, talk.
Liquid Fire AoE increased from 175 to 300, and Ice Path was actually reworked, and I think it's fantastic. Now, after a short delay, you throw out the Ice Path, and anybody that tries to pass the ice will actually get frozen and deal damage, and I think that is amazing. And now this great way to zone people out, and now you have a little bit of protection from whiffing with everything you have except for Liquid Fire. I have kind of always been a fan of playing the Jakiro just because I think Liquid Fire is so strong, and you can really find ways to make your other abilities strong as well. And just now that Ice Path gets itself a little bit more utility, I think it's fantastic.
It's like a fissure made of ice that if you touch it, you get frozen. Except it doesn't last nearly as long. So it's not like a fissure.
The Nyx assassin buff. If only this had been out when he was picked up in TI2. If they would have won.
Does it say now is a functional hero?
No, you're really asking for a lot there. You're really asking for a lot.
Go ahead. What
Alright,
happened?
You actually got a lot of buffs. Base HP regeneration increased to 2.5. Mana drain went from 4 times int to 5 times int. The cost was scaled so that it decreased per level instead of increased per level. It went from 90, 110, 130, 150 to 130, 120, 110, 100. Vendetta move speed, whatever, no one cares. Spiked carapace rework, though. It reflects and negates damage max 1 from each source. So it's not just 1, it's 1 from each enemy hero. And it's I think the same for stun duration, mana cost, and all that.
I think it's actually a really nice change. I mean, that's my favorite one. I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see when Nyx gets picked up again, how the change to the mana burn works. Because before we were always like, well, you have to pick up the int items because later on in the game you're going to want to be spamming the mana burn a lot. But now that it actually decreases per level, it might give him a little bit more freedom to go for some agility items. Might not have to go so hardcore into the int. And now that Spike Carapace can reflect up to 5 spells, I mean, that's really, or 5 instances of damage. I think it's really nice. And of course, that's an additional 4 stuns that he didn't have before. Potentially.
I think the mana burn is the biggest change for him, honestly. It really impacts your way you're going to level abilities. I remember having a conversation with you about prioritizing certain spells, and you were saying, well, if you prioritize mana burn, sure, the cooldown goes down substantially, but now it's up to 150 mana, so you're spending 150 every 4 seconds or whatever, and you're really going to go out of mana very quickly. But now it went down. I think that's the right direction that it should have been in the first place. So now you have more incentive to really want to level it up, not only with the cooldown. I mean, they just buff mana burn so much in this. You know, the scaling 4 to 5 int, and now the mana cost. It's just such an amazing move to really have on this hero, and really might change him and how he does in fights potentially.
Yep, I agree. I agree. I used to level Spike Carapace because it's like mana burn. Ooh, I'm gonna level that and myself in a team fight in like 2 casts.
Yeah.
Nope, gonna level Spike Carapace.
Yeah.
But now I don't know. I don't even know.
I don't even. That's just it.
Don't know.
Explosions in the head.
The one that I think is interesting, I don't think it's really going to matter much, is the change of Treant Protector. Luckily, Bonk was on when we talked about the Treant Protector, and try and have fun with him, make him viable. He actually had quite a few changes.
Yeah,
They
I remember
reworked the
this.
aura so that it's not an aura. It's now a global cast. Fairly cheap ability. Starts at 30 mana, goes up to 45. Ooh.
You should say it's not
on
global
a-
cast. It's single target with global cast range.
Okay, yeah, alright, there you go.
Global
Better
cast
way to
is
put
very
it.
deceiving.
Grants health regeneration, gives damage block up to 6 damage instances on that target being attacked. So it's really, I think, a fantastic change because we were talking about it before, and it's like, well, you know, it's great that you have this global aspect. It's only during the day, though, and it's not much. Now this is literally, if you're playing Treant Protector and you're having great map awareness, whatever that is, you're actually going to be able to help people across the map potentially, and you're going to be a support with global presence that's really actually going to be able to make meaningful contributions to the team fights instead of being like, what do you mean I was in the fight, guys? You had 2 health regen and 2 armor.
Yeah, right.
My real question is, do you think the entire buff is dispelled after 6 instances, or just the block?
I think it's the whole thing.
The whole thing.
That sucks.
The other thing too is the overgrowth got changed. It now doesn't do any damage, which is very, very sad. But the cooldown gets reduced a decent amount, and the duration also gets increased. So there's that.
I like that way
Nice.
better. I don't really care if it does damage. It's not really its purpose.
It was never. Its purpose was not to kill people.
It was never to do damage. It was a root.
Yeah, that's a huge change. I think the cooldown, going down to 80 flat is really, really nice to have.
They
Yeah,
increased
all
its
around really
base.
nice.
They increased his base. by
14. Holy! He only hit for like 50, didn't he? He's like
They
a
made his
monster
attack
now.
time longer. It made him hit for more. Good luck last hitting against Treant Protector. Hey, what's
Yeah,
up,
I mean,
guys?
like-
I've got a Quelling Blade and I hit for 70.
Oof.
Good.
GG.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't think this is really going to make him viable. I mean, I'd love to see people mess with him just because we hardly ever get to see him show up. But really interesting changes, and I think steps in the right direction. And, like, especially this stuff now, I think, when you make 2 major changes to a hero's kit, now you can look to see the next patch and see what kind of little tweaking you can do. Maybe bring up some of the numbers a bit to try and bring him up to snuff as far as, you know, some of the other supports are concerned.
How about
Yeah.
Ogre Magi?
What about Ogre Magi?
His Agamon's Unrefined Fireball cooldown went from 20 seconds to 10.
And Bloodlust can now target catapults.
And an armor.
And it gives more movement speed.
By 1%. Yeah, no. Obviously, decreasing the cooldown half. Well, it's a weird change because it's really good if you have Ogres, but that basically means, hey, if you pick Ogre Magi and you get a lot of farm with him, you can have a good buff. How many games do you see a farmed Ogre Magi in? Not very many, especially in the pro
The
scene.
Ogre Magi.
No,
in
the
your
pro scene,
kit?
I've seen him twice already. GEST, we've casted. We've seen him twice now, I think, as a support. But he's a support. He's never picked up as a farmer. No way. So to ask him to get Nogginens is definitely asking a lot.
And the other thing too, I mean, that Unrefined Fire Blast is so expensive. It's almost like the Nyx thing where it's like, oh, I get to cast it more, but I can't cast it more because can't support that. So I feel like this is like an even more absurd situation where it's like I have Aghanim Scepter and I have Bloodstone and I have Sheepstick, so now I can actually stun somebody multiple times with it.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's a good change for his ultimate or for Aghanims, but like I said, you're not going to really get an Aghanims very often, so it's a very situational buff. I think a big one though we really need to cover is the Panda Brewmaster split now being affected by Black Hole. That if only they added on top of that, not affected by Naga Siren or now affected by Naga Siren too, but that's not in here. But at least the Black Hole's covered, and that's definitely a nice change.
The PA.
Yeah, I mean that's.
Tigra buff.
Can we just stick on one thing for a second here? Jeez, I just wanted to. What do you think about Brewmaster buff? Just go. Or nerf, not both.
I don't. It's whatever. That's my
I'm
opinion.
not asking you then, because you don't obviously care. BDLM,
It's not a big deal.
it's a huge deal.
I don't know.
He is picked
I
up a
guess.
lot in competitive. Well, I guess you don't watch as much competitive scene as we do.
I mean, yeah, I guess it's picked up a lot, but
It countered Enigma so well. If he could split,
Why?
then Enigma could
Enigma's
not
gonna get-
ulti until his ulti was done, essentially. Because he
Enigma's
could
just gonna get
interrupt it.
BKB anyway.
Well, he might not have it at that point.
I guess.
It's a good change. It's
Yeah,
a
I mean,
good change.
he should be affected by Black Hole. Yes, he should be, but I don't think it's like game breaking.
None of these are game breaking.
The other
Except
neat thing
Sniper.
too about the Panda Brewmaster is now smoke does not save you from
Yep,
the little elementals.
his brewlings. Yeah, that's also
So
a really nice change. So he loses a little bit, but he gains a little bit at the same time. So actually, I think he gains more than he loses in that trade-off, honestly. Because we've seen so many of those smoke things happen. He's like, damn it, what a waste of my ult. It's a good change. Go ahead, Craig. What the heck were you blabbing about? I don't even care. Oh, you were saying something about PA. It doesn't even matter.
PA Coup de Grace, yeah!
Great.
I think the bigger one as far as carries are concerned is you look at Phantom Lancer and his agility growth goes from 2.8 to 4.2. A huge increase, I think, comparatively. When you look at some of the other heroes and it's like, oh, they got a 0.1 increase to their gain. This is whole number increase in his agility as he levels up.
It's like
So-
roughly 30-something agility or something at 25.
Which is also going to go to his images as well. But
That's true.
interesting to point out. And the slow increase on his Phantom Lance. Spirit Lance.
Did you see the Pugna change, Matt? I thought you would have been thrilled about that. His Nether Ward Mana Flare does more damage
Oh, yeah.
It does
by
barely anymore.
0.25.
We should just now focus on the really big changes from here on out. Okay?
Well, I think
Is that
we
okay
covered
with you?
more, really.
We did
We
those
really,
already.
I know
That's
we
why
really,
we're now
did,
doing
we
a little
really did not cover all
Well,
of them.
then go for it. Lower
Zeus
mines,
ult,
Jay.
Zeus ult 30 seconds lower, 120 to
Okay.
90 seconds. That's a big deal to figure out. Hold on, I'm getting there. There was a few. Oh god, where is it? I hate having this big text. It's so
Just
big.
reaching, Matt.
No, I'm not. I literally had all of these. Okay, Leshrax's Diabolic Edict now uses his cast animation time. It's not just instantly on. So he does have to set that up a little bit with a cast animation. Obviously, Leshrac being picked every single game, it kind of affects him. You already said Shakiro. Doombringer Craig!
I talked about him, and you guys
But
were like,
no, we were talking
"No."
over you. So now you can actually talk about it.
Now's
So-
the time.
So now's the time. So he got a lot of changes here. The main one, obviously, Devour creep level restriction removed. So now at level 1, you can devour a nice big fat creep and get his abilities, which is kind of a huge deal for him. The cooldown did go down, actually. Well, early ranks it's higher, lower ranks it's lower. So more you level it up, which you'll probably be doing. Is
So
good.
that you kind of have to put points in it.
Yeah, that's true. Because otherwise, there wasn't a huge incentive. Otherwise, now you can get the level 1 creeps. True.
I mean, that's huge. I mean, now he actually has viability, so you could actually think of him, of putting him in a lane, and just go see if into the jungle and find a troll warlord. Now you actually have something to do. Or even if you still want to play him as that super farmer, you just go into the jungle, you eat yourself a wolf, and now you have that damage or you have the crit. I think it makes him a lot stronger, really, and gives him some potential in the earlier parts of the game. And now also with the level death bonus being able to do a huge amount of damage potentially in the later parts of the game, I think is fantastic as well.
because it does 20% of max health instead of a fixed amount.
Yes.
Yeah, that's enormous too. But actually, it brings up a point. Someone made a post right after these came out that about Jungle Doombringer as the new strategy to try out. Just level 1, eat a big creep, hit level 2 pretty much right away, and then just start going from there. I mean, obviously, I feel like it'd be pretty slow still. You'd have to pull the lane to really get the most out of it. But I mean, it's interesting to think about like when these things are changed, like people might play them a whole different way that you never thought about before. So
Yep.
who knows?
Yeah, I think that is very interesting, and especially like I think if you got the wolf again, I think that might be a really interesting way to do it. But of course, that's also going to depend a little bit on luck. Like what happens if you go to some of your camps, you've got a ton of wildkin. It's like I have tornado, so it's gonna be a little bit slow to try and jungle with, but whatever. But yeah, I mean, I think especially if you're in the dire jungles, if you have the potential to pull the yellow creeps into the lane as well, I mean that gives you a lot of potential. I think to get some easy levels.
Oh my goodness! How did you not say this change, Matt?
The wisp one.
No,
Oh,
Crystal Maiden.
Oh, I saw
Yeah.
that.
Freezing field duration increased from 4 to 7 seconds, almost double the length of her ultimate.
Yeah, it's totally gonna channel for the entire 7 seconds.
It will because of now getting the Shadow Amulet.
And
You're
people
welcome.
are totally just gonna stand in it. Guys, look,
that's the thing. I
Vaulting.
mean,
Let's play in the snow.
they could have made it global cast range, and I'd still be like, like no, that'd be fine. But yeah, I mean, the issue is, can you actually channel it that long? And I think you're never going to be able to, even if you get the invisibility.
Even if you do channel that long, who's gonna be standing in it after 4
You
seconds?
get someone to CC. It's not just 1 versus 5, bonk. Okay? You're going to have someone on your team that has a stun or something to help you out. Okay?
I think if you're in a team fight, you're gonna get stunned.
Not with a Shadow Amulet. Not if you're quick. Not if you're super quick.
Not if you make that 2.75 fade time.
No,
just
you
like
go in, you Frostbite, you ulti, you Shadow Amulet. By the time Frostbite wears out, you're probably almost melted, if not melted. So, done.
I think one that's actually kind of interesting, and I'm not sure how much it'll matter, is actually the Faceless Void changes.
Yeah.
One, his time lock will deal twice as much damage, that's stun, to someone in the Chronosphere effect. And also, Faceless Void can't be locked by a Chronosphere. So if Rubik steals it, he still gets to run around in it, and so it's the ability to fight within the
They'd
field.
be like, "Thanks, Rubik. You're the best. Thanks for CCing your whole team while I kill them."
Yeah,
Pretty much, but that's actually kind of interesting. I mean, I feel like that's probably a big part of why we don't see him anymore. It's just so easy to counter him with his own ability, and now it's like, okay, you might still be able to use it against my friends, but I'm the carry. I'm the one doing the damage at this point.
Yeah.
It might not be that big of a deal.
Yeah.
What does
Do we
the
have any
anime
other-
Sheen mean by legs? What does it even mean?
Oh my god,
I-
we already explained
I
it.
even said
Oh,
that.
You were here
No,
It's
for
a
that.
nod.
You went over like where it came from, but I don't know what it means.
It's just a joke.
It's a joke. It literally means nothing for the hero at all.
What is
Nothing-
legs? Where'd that come from? Came from the international. I know that.
Yes.
There was a
San
joke
Bruno.
about the number of legs dictating the outcome of the game, basically, and so they're nerfing his number of legs.
Oh.
All right. Time for the womp 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 segment.
Oh.
Ready? Here's a tribute to the things we wish could have actually went through from the previous beta notes we did a cast on. I'm going to start this off with the Lion Aghanim Scepter change. And how I'm very, very depressed that did not get implemented in this game. For all those who didn't listen to our episode for some reason, which is episode 38, I believe, which it says, I don't like change. Anyways, essentially the old one, or the changes that they were thinking about putting in, was his ultimate now was going to bounce to a target within a certain range of the primary target you cast it on. So essentially, you could hit 2 people with your ultimate. Kind of would have been awesome. I'm not going to lie.
It would have been cool, but I think the just sort of random aspect of it, I mean, it's a tremendous amount of damage because there wasn't even any talk of being reduced damage. I mean, if it was like to do 25% more damage, then you'd be like, well, the AoE is so small, it's not really worth doing. Like, how do you find the balance between the absurdity of the amount of damage Finger of Death does and then the area at which that travels? I think it's really sort of hard to balance. But, I mean, you do bring up Lion, and I think he got a lot of fantastic buffs. You look at the cooldown actually gets reduced on the Finger of Death. The damage gets increased at the lower ranks. And Mana Drain gets a lot of big buffs. You know, we were actually casting a game earlier today, well, with Lion in it, and someone in the chat was even like, okay, Lion Mana Drain, but when's he going to get to use it? Well, now it's a little bit easier for him. He has the longest range on the Mana Drain all the time. The threshold range, so the distance that someone has to walk away in order to break the Mana Drain, is further. And the cooldown also gets decreased. So I think a lot of great buffs to Lion, despite the fact that he doesn't get the Algonyms.
Any comments, Bonk, or no?
Not particularly.
Okay. It says it's not even in the game. I guess you don't really care. I actually don't know how we missed the Necrolite thing in our conversation.
Oh, yeah, that's a cool
pretty
one.
nice
I
change.
saw it.
I mean, the thing is, no one plays him, so it kind of like got shuffled under the scuttle of things. But it's actually a really neat change. Changing Sadist, now he'll gain health and mana regen stacks for each unit he kills, and it stacks it itself for 6 seconds each duration. So kind of like Goblin's Greed, they're independent stacking of each other on yourself. Now he gains mana regen and health regen, and it's 10 times the bonus for hero kills. So at the last rank, it's 10 mana per second and 4 health per second. And then 10 times that for a hero kill will be 100 mana per second and 40 health per second for 6 seconds. So basically, instead of getting a mana instantly for killing units, now you're going to regen it over a period of 6 seconds. But you're also going to regen health on top of that. So essentially, you could see this as a buff. Probably as a buff.
I would absolutely say it's a buff. And I would also say this sort of reinforces the way that people have been at least trying to play Necrolite at a somewhat competitive level, where it's like, let's get the farm on him, get him really tanky, and then he just death pulses on everybody, and you hope that he survives long enough to do that. Now it's okay. Now you're getting some health regeneration, which is nice. The mana regeneration, of course, has always been an issue with him. And of course, if he kills a hero, that's an absurd amount of especially health regen, 40 per second. So I think it's actually really nice. Whether or not that's going to be enough to bring him into the competitive scene, I think if you're going to pick a tanky int that's sort of a carry, you want to try and compare Necrolite to maybe Crobliss. I still don't know if he has enough to maybe win that argument.
Yeah. That's true. That's true.
Bonk!
Bonk.
Bonk's falling asleep.
I'm not falling asleep. I like the Necrolite changes. I would play him, especially if they were out in Dota 2. I used to play him a lot, solo mid as like a carry, but not anymore.
Yeah. Solo mid's actually kind of a weird role, I feel like, for him.
Yeah, you're stupid for that, Bonk.
I used to get like a sub 20-minute Bloodstone on him.
There you go.
Bloodstone's a fun item on him. Although
Pretty strong, sub 20-minute. You're just like, hey guys, I'm gonna go push. You should help me. I'll heal you.
I guess to sort of talk about the Womp Womp, but really the exact opposite, and that being changes that they decided to keep that I think are amazing are actually the buffs to Silencer. The Strength Grow was kept. I mean, it's only at 0.5, but I think that's still fantastic, making it a little bit tankier. The Global Silence duration increased by a second at last rank, and the last word giving the 2 int steal no matter what, I think is just fantastic, and it actually really sets him apart a little bit more as a support hero who is going to be a little bit stronger in the later parts of the game and really sort of adds to the potential he already had for that.
For those that didn't know last word, it used to be based on if you got the kill or assist. And it gave you based on that. Now it's, like you said, flat 2 intelligence if they just die in your AoE. So yeah, a lot easier for him to get intelligence that way. Yep.
Okay.
We've
We've been going forever.
Yeah, it feels like forever, doesn't it?
Anyway,
I don't see any more interesting changes.
No, that was pretty much it.
you're not interesting. Change.
Wow.
Throwing it down. Well, anyway, yeah, it doesn't look like anybody else in the chat has given us anything crazy to talk about. So,
This guy is a jerk. Actually, he's up there to me.
so
Yeah, he is.
anyway, Thank you guys for tuning in to episode number 44 of the DoD On Demand podcast. Be sure to stay tuned to our Facebook, .com/DoD On Demand, because we are throwing stuff up there about the GEST qualifiers, so you guys can check out our stream and watch those games. They've been a lot of fun to watch and to cast. So you can check us out there, of course, youtube.com/DoD On Demand and twitch.tv/DoD On Demand. And for the GEST, in case you want to go and check out those VODs, it's twitch.tv/DoTA Talk Stream, as they are the people hosting said tournament.
Any
So
last
I
words,
think
Bonk?
Peace out, home dogs.
It's a Pac-Man without a body.
Oh, that's weird.
Thanks for hanging out, guys. We will see you next week.